Good evening. So I'm very excited today to talk to you about something I'm very passionate about, which is AI. I hope there's not too much AI fatigue because you see AI stuff everywhere. So what I'd like to do is to describe to you what's going on, and then maybe take a little time to reflect about the implications of what's going on. And then at the end, I'd like to share with you some, let me call it my thesis about AI and some reflections that we can have. And if you have the urge to ask questions, raise your hand and I'll take your question. So basically I'll go and follow this format here. What's the objective? And we'll do a couple of polls. So I'll ask you what you think about AI. And then at the end of the presentation, I'll ask you the same question. And I want to know if you change your mind in the meantime, okay? And so I'll give you, describe about things that are happening that I think are really mind-boggling. And then I meet a lot of people and they say, oh, this AI stuff is really, really new. And AI is actually not new at all, right? It's like the overnight success after 30 years of work, right? I mean, there's a lot of things that happen. So I'll take maybe like 5-10 minutes to go through a brief history of AI, just to kind of get an idea of what happened, how we arrived here. And then I want to be able to talk to you about the implications, the good, the bad, and the ugly about AI. And I think we're talking about dystopia earlier, the Hollywood stuff. And then very pragmatically, how do we leverage all that stuff that we know, right? To know things and not to do anything is the same thing as not knowing anything, right? And then, depending on the time we have, I hope I get some time to share with you thesis and reflection of what's going on. So one thing, I gave a talk, I recognize a few people here, and I want to follow up on the conversation we had on ChatGPT last year. And then share with you the excitement of what's going on. And there are really some cool techniques that I'd like to cover very briefly with you in addition to the LLM that's happening now. And then talk a little bit about the magic, because really I think there's magic in that stuff. And then pause and take stock of what's going on and try to see, predict what's going to happen. One thing we're going to talk about is the job market, obviously, right? The implication is huge in the job market. And then I'll share some thoughts with you. So let's start with the poll, okay? So in terms of vocabulary, there are different definitions out there. And for AI, currently people have the definition of narrow AI. So narrow AI would be, there's one thing that the AI does better than us, right? Like playing chess or playing Go, that kind of stuff, right? The second one is general AI. It does everything as well as we do, maybe a little better. And then the super AI, right, ASI, which is really now, well, like little kids, right? I mean, beats us everywhere, right? So question for you. So free question, right? And your answer is O. It's like the blood group, right? OAB, right? 0 means never, it's not going to happen. A, it's going to happen this decade, which is only like 6 years. And then B would be after that. It will happen, but we don't really know what's going to happen. Okay, first question. So divide it into 3 parts. First one is content creation, like text, like pictures, images, videos, music, and so on. Where do you think we stand? OAB. O?
Better or
Can you raise your hands and get the O?
Better or same?
Where's already done?
So it's this is the AGI, kind of same a little better, same a little better. Okay. Okay. So O, never is going to happen. We're talking content creation here, right? Content creation. Any O? Raise your hands. A. B. Oh, some spectacle people here. Okay. But that's no better. And the second one is about robotics, right? You've seen the humanoid robots and all that good stuff. So same thing. Never. They're going to do as well as we do, a little better than us. O. A. This decade? Next decade or this century? Okay. Last one, we try to put some stuff in our head. Let's call it the cyborg stuff, right? When you mix the robots and the human being, let's call it cyborg. And we'll talk a little bit about Neuralink and what they're doing, right? So, do you think the cyborg enhance the bio-unique man, that kind of stuff, right? And never. We won't get any bio-unique man that's better than us. No. Okay. A. B. Oh, big majority is B. It's going to happen, but no priority. Okay, cool. So remember what you chose, right? In the sequence, you remember the 3 letters. Cool. Thank you. So let me share with you some of the news that I think are mind-boggling. So the first one, anyone saw this video of a robot, Figure 1, with OpenAI, and the gentleman talking with the robot and asked, "I'm hungry. Can you give me something to eat?" And it would basically offer an apple. And the way it offers the apple, which is very interesting, it holds the apple with one hand, and then puts the apple in the other hand, and then extends the hand. And I happen to have taken robotics classes in the PhD, and I know that's a very hard thing to do, right? So this one is very impressive. And then ChatGPT taking over and says, why did you give me the apple? And the robot says, it's the only thing that we can eat, because there are plates, the stuff, and soap, right? Which was very, very impressive. And if you haven't seen the video, I think if you look at this video, it's really cool. And then there's a bunch of things about Optimus Prime from Elon Musk, and the other robot is kind of pales in comparison to what we see here. Figure 1 is really very impressive. The second mind-boggling news, I think, is the working on the face. So the face has 26 muscles in there, and it anticipates looking at the face of someone if you're going to smile. And then 840 milliseconds before you smile, the robot smiles at you. It's wow, it's a very nice person, right? 840 milliseconds before you smile at you. And this is a PhD dissertation that's going on in Colombia. And it's very impressive when you look at this. It feels really human, right? Because one of the things that we have is that robot, we can relate with a robot because it's very mechanical, and this one takes away that. Third one, which was really in the news, you probably heard about the Neuralink, right? Mm-hmm. And the guy, this guy, Nolan, and what they did was to implant in his brain, right? They have 1,000 electrodes in there, and then he can, in the demo, he can look at the chessboard and get the pieces to move, right? Just by thought. I mean, it doesn't move the hands at all. And it's really, really impressive. And that happened a month ago. And they have other people that are going to implant coming up. And just last week, some bad news happened. 700 of those electrodes out of 1,000 came off, right? And the guy was pleading, please, let's have another operation. And they said, no, we're not going to give you another operation. It's too dangerous. But for the other patients, instead of going 3 millimeters to 5 millimeters, we're going to go 8 millimeter deep. So hopefully this time the electrode will come off, right? And in what I read, the guy was crying because really his dream got squashed because he was so excited and it was working, and then all of a sudden the stuff stopped working. Really sad. You hear a lot about the X-rays, the mammograms, and so on. There's a very interesting study I came across where they compared two radiologists, a team of radiologists, and then the computer program, right? And the interesting info is that the false positive rate, meaning that you see a tumor when there's no tumor, is the same for both. The radiologist as the computer is at 1.5%, right? We screw up 1.5% of the time. But that said, the AI program does as well, a little better than the two radiologists, right? And what's interesting as well is that the radiologist, for you to train a radiologist to read those fluently, those mammograms takes about, surprisingly, about 10 years, right? And then on average, they can read about 50 mammograms in an hour. And that's something very boring, about 50 mammograms to read. And about 2.3 million people get breast cancer a year. So you can imagine the impact. If I ask you to guess, what is the penetration of AI among radiologists? How many radiologists, percentage-wise, would use some kind of AI program? Take a guess. 10%?
Are you saying now?
Yeah, no.
70% today, right? Today?
Oh, no.
20%. The answer is 2%. Only 2%. So despite all the stuff that's happening, it's not in the culture today that the radiologists will use any AI. It's kind of interesting, right? Other one that you probably saw the video, right? The Sora video, and it generates up to 1 minute, just like for pictures. And you also have video, and it has, I think this one is the most amazing video I've seen. You just can't believe that's true. I mean, this thing generates, say you've got like 24 frames per second, right, for over 60 seconds, like 1440 or something like this. And it's very, very, very realistic. I mean, you can really believe it's someone who made the video. I mean, you just can't believe it's AI that does that. Really crazy. And this one takes the cake, right? So this one came out about 2 weeks ago, and you basically have your camera, and you get your, this is GPT-4o for Omni, meaning that it understands video as well. So in the first video, they pointed at the ducks and saying, what's going on there? It says, oh, there's a few ducks there, they're plunging, and they're very happy, the street, very pristine. It's really what a human being would say, right? And then another video where a blind person, supposedly blind, in London, hailing the cab, the London taxi, and the ChatGPT would say, oh, now the taxi is coming, raise your hand for the taxi to stop, right? So kind of the iPhones like this. And the demo is really impressive. Other one is rock, paper, scissors, right? There are two people playing rock, paper, scissors, and what the bot does, it basically arbitrates and say, hey, you won, you lost, and it's same thing, you both got scissors, and it just talks like a real human being, right? It's just crazy, in real time. And then the other one that I found interesting as well. So they've got two AIs that talk with each other. So one AI can see the word, can talk, and the other one cannot see the word, right? So the AI is kind of like this. And then it would ask it question, what do you see around you? Oh, I see many people seated in a chair and so on. And then they basically ask question back and forth, like two human beings. And then they even joke, right? And then in the voice now, there's a little hesitation, which makes it very, very lifelike, right? They hesitate before they give up the word, they pause. And it's eerily realistic, right? Just check it out, really cool. So ChatGPT is super popular now. It started with 3.5. They have a free version, and then the 4, and then 4 just came out, and then in a month or two we'll have ChatGPT 5, right? And so what it takes as input, it takes text, audio, image, and video. So the video is not accessible to the large public today. It's the red team that checking out stuff. It's a few people that have access. And then it spits out text, audio, and image, right? The O is very interesting because normally when you talk, what happens is that it gets translated in a sequence of words, like text. And here you lose all the stuff about the emphasis that you put, the pause, the inflection in the voice. Whereas in this version, it captures the inflection, so it gets a better understanding of what the speaker is talking about, right? So this one, it was on WhatsApp, and I have a sister-in-law called Lily. So Lily sent me a picture, and sent me a picture here of fruits, and I saw the price is in black, right? And so I said, well, that's a very good experiment for ChatGPT, right? So I put that picture and I'm going to ask two questions. So which country is this from, right? And the second one, this is really hard, right? What store is that picture from? Like crazy, right? And look at the first answer, on the left, right? So here it says the image, this is from ChatGPT, right? Image shows various fruits with prices labeled in Thai baht, right? Additionally, the signs have Thai text, so it understands Thai, right? And this indicates that the image is taken in Thailand. Wow, right? That's very impressive. And the second question is which store? I mean, if you are that good, that's a crazy question. What store is that? And then it would go, it says, it's kind of hard to say, which store it is, but here are the most popular stores where you have those number of fruits in Thailand. Tesco, Lotus, Big C, Macro, Tux Market, Central Food Market. And the answer is yes, it was Big C. Right? I mean, this is really impressive, right? Okay. Another news that got my attention as well, there's this guy, really racist guy, you know what he called it? He's a principal in a high school in Baltimore. And he has something really bad. He says, ungrateful black kids who can't test their way out of a paper bag. I mean, they're really bad, right? And they can't do anything. And people get very upset with him. How can you say something like this? You can't do that. And so he got put on administrative leave, and then got death threats and all that stuff. They're terrible. Until they realized he didn't any of this. Actually, it was manufactured, AI manufactured, and they imitated his voice, right, intonation. And it turns out it was a high school athletic director that was disgruntled, unhappy with him, that used AI to go after them. Right, so now the question you can ask yourself, now the damage that's done, how many people heard this news? And of those, how many heard the rest of the story, that he had nothing to do with that? Right, so you can just, I think it's a very good example to tell people how we should be very careful about this kind of technology, right? But now the damage is done, and you come back and there's always that suspicion about you. Okay, but maybe think like this. Okay. So we talked about the robot offering the apple, right? Changing hands and still he can eat. The implant allows the amputee to play chess by thought. AI listens, talks as a real person. You have the robot that smiles at 840 milliseconds before you do. It's good as a radiologist and so on. So the question I have for you, what did you see in the news that really got your attention? What really got your attention in the news?
About AI.
Yeah, I can't really give you the microphone.
There was it was called a unreleased Elvis Presley song,
Oh,
and it was incredible, and everyone loved it, but it was AI generated. So, yeah,
You got fooled.
yeah, a lot of people did. Like, this is incredible, oh my God, Elvis, you didn't release this, but it was complete fabrication.
Yeah, so what I was struck by is there's a lawsuit with the New York Times saying that you're basically scraping up all of our stuff
yes.
and using that, and that's basically stealing. So I'm very curious as to what...
The IP, all the IP stuff.
Yeah,
right?
you're basically
Yeah.
ripping us off
Yeah.
and making, all the stuff off of this or anything in the world.
AJ, you heard what OpenAI said? That when they were training the stuff? We actually lost the data that we use for training. We have the neural net, but we can't find the data.
Yeah, one that I recall lately was just the job replacement aspect of this is all the data-driven jobs, mathematical jobs, and how they can kind of be at risk with AI getting smarter in those areas, but at the same time, sort of the more qualitative things that people do, like writing, reading, speaking, interacting with people, those could become more valuable over time with AI kind of taking over the mathematical, aspects.
Logan, I heard a story. There's a guy who writes pieces for these takes like 10, 12 different clients, and then he started to lose his clients, and then there was the last client that's left, and then he lost the last client, and he goes to the guy and says, "But I write better than ChatGPT," and the guy says, "Of course I know that, but the other guy is free." And I had to pay. This is an interesting comment, right? So you may even accept something lower, but the other one is free, right? So in the econ, you have to factor that as well. Any other stories you want to share?
Here, I'll do one.
In the last couple of weeks, Google has inserted an AI summary before your actual search results.
Yeah.
My experience, limited though it might be, is it's useless.
Yeah.
Completely useless. It doesn't, for me, it hasn't given totally wrong information,
Yeah.
but it's just a delay to get to what I
Yeah.
will parse on my own.
Yeah.
But it's the first thing, so you take the time to read it and say, this doesn't answer my question, let me go and find, and I'll nose around the articles and find what I want.
I think that stuff gets lots of flack that many people were kind of a little negative about this Google summary. We're good?
JP?
Yes, there is some instances where lawyers have used AI to prepare documents and briefs in which you need to have cases that support what you're saying, and if AI can't find one, it makes one up. So if you use it, you actually have to then be sure that everything that it is telling you is actually there.
Yeah. We have the story, right? The fabricated cases of the airplane, right, that everyone heard about. But the case that never existed, but then they were presented as if it happened. Okay, is that better? Okay, thank you. So let me take a few minutes to talk about the brief history of AI. And as I mentioned before, many people say, "Oh, AI, this is very new. I don't know when this thing happened." So what I'll do, and of course I'm going to miss some big stuff. I'm sure some of you, "Oh, JP, you're not talking about this big hole in what you're doing," but you have to make choices given the time that you have. So I'll talk to you about the Turing test. We heard about Turing test again and again. I just want to make sure that we know exactly what the Turing test is. Elisa, the chatbot. Elisa, the chatbot, was very popular at the time when I was doing my PhD. And many people were taken aback, and they would absolutely believe that this thing is really intelligent when actually it's very stupid. I'll say a few words about maybe before we have the LLM, it's the expert system. And I'll give you some examples. And then there was that big stuff about Deep Blue, Kasparov, right, that rocked the world. And then we had AlphaGo 0, AlphaZero. And then came that, this one maybe we don't know it happened, but it's been this seminal work for the objective. It's the creation, the architecture of the transformer. And then there's AlphaFold about how the proteins fold, and this problem is virtually solved today, which is really impressive. And then I'll say a few words about ChatGPT, which you guys know. So what's the Turing test? We always hear about the Turing test. So the Turing test is, you're here, and there are basically two rooms. You can ask questions, but you don't see who's in which room, right? And you can ask all kinds of questions. And at the end of the day, you have to decide this one is the robot and this one is the human being. If you cannot distinguish between them, then that robot passed the Turing test because you were unable to distinguish them, right? And your questions can be crazy, right? All kinds of questions. So just to give you an example, describe why time flies like an arrow, but the fruit flies like the banana, right? So this is, it takes you some knowledge to be able to kind of disentangle this sentence, right? And you can ask a question, right? And you can think of how you feel about your upbringing. So now you basically bring experience the human being there. You can ask all kinds of questions, right? And you can even ask a meta question: what do you think about what you're thinking? Everything is game, right? And No program has passed the test yet, and the question is for how long? And I want to say that GPT-4o, I think it passed the test. I mean, you look at this thing, maybe you should look a little closer, but if it didn't pass it, it's very, very, very close to passing. I mean, it's just very impressive. Okay, so the first chatbot, this is more like a historical note. That was written to basically, could you talk about your mother? You come visit me. And people get excited because we anthropomorphize immediately, right? As soon as with language we think there's something there, it's a human being, right? And that's a very good example to show you. I have a little, I won't read it, but you have a little kind of dialogue between Elisa. I'll share the slides if you're interested. Between Elisa and the human being. And it sounds very lifelike, right? Except that the Elisa is really stupid. And then came the expert system. The expert system, I think probably the most famous one that started the whole thing is Mycin at Stanford. And the way it works is you have a user that interacts with the system. You have a user interface, and it has two parts to it. One is what we call the knowledge base. So basically, we had at some point the word knowledge engineer. So you go and you talk with the expert, so you're an expert, and I ask you, how do you do your stuff? Or you do your craft. And I try to capture this thing through rules. And rules, they have two parts, like a theorem. It has an if part and a then part. If this is satisfied, then that's the conclusion that you drive, right? So you can go on forward chaining, meaning if then, or you can do backward chaining too, right? If then, and then you go the other way. That's called Multiple-Tollens. Tollens, which is you take the negative of the conclusion, the negation of the premise. And so the idea is very, very immediate. You go and talk with people, capture their rules, how they do your stuff. And then you put an inference engine in there, and then you ask a question, you spit out the answer. So in terms of kind of history, the Mycin is the one that everyone studied, right? It would say something like, if the state of the organism is gram-positive, morphology is focused, growth confirmation, blah, 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 and the suggestive evidence, and you can see the 0.6 here. It's not like math, where it's 100% inference. It's kind of, most of the time, you can see something like this, right? So 0.6, that the identity is Streptococcus, right? So this is what Mycin did. And we got inspired in my lab. So I did mine as well, right? So I built an expert system for ProCal. And Jess knows that very well. And so what it does, is you want to machine a pod, and you basically describe how the pod, I know it's invisible, this thing that I have here, but at the time that looked really cool. That's a domain of this kind of our language is kind of based on Lisp. And it will have some conclusion how you should cut the, how you machine the pod, right? So how you do that stuff. And here I have my weight here, 7 weight, just like the other one. And so the system worked pretty well. And the way we did it, I got another professor from mechanical engineering to give us exams that he gives to students between 18 and 20, so 2 years after high school, right? And many of them I got an A, I think one I got a C. I mean, when I say I, it's not in my system. So it wasn't perfect, but it did the easy one, it would label the stuff. So good enough for us to, I was working for a startup, the company, and we sold it to Mitsubishi. I went to Tokyo and gave lectures on the stuff, and this is how I went to see Jess in Korea. And then we sold it to the French defense. And then we have other data. I think I went to Stanford and gave some classes on this thing that we developed. And then came 1997, so this is Kasparov, right? So Kasparov, there were two big, kind of 1996 and 1997. 1996 was really crucial because this is the first time a program won a game, I should say. Not beat him, won a game. And then the program that improved so much the following year, he was playing against something else, and he didn't quite realize that. And then he lost, right? So that's the dethroning of the best chess player ever that we have as humanity has to offer, right? And then, as you know, chess is very complicated. The chess players here, you have just layers, right? And the complexity of Go is way, way higher, even though the pieces are kind of, the white and black, that's all, but, you just have different pieces and so on. And so there was the whole story, I don't know if you were following them with Go, there was AlphaGo beats people one after the other, right? The 9 dan stuff, and one after the other. And then the world champion got beaten, right? And it was over for the human being. And if that's not enough, so the program plays against itself. And while you're sleeping, it's playing against itself. And it became so good that it beats the version that beat the world champion 100-0, right? I mean, you've got no chance now, right? If you had a chance before, now it's 0, right? And that's the progression, AlphaGo 0, Alpha 0. You don't even teach the stuff, the rules. You don't even see how you move the piece, right? You just show the games and it figures out how the pieces are moved and how to win, right? If you're not impressed, I think you'll never be impressed. This is crazy. And then they have new 0, now it's, yeah. So this is how you have to bow to the AI, whether, even if you're the world champion, you have to bow. Then 27 came the architecture, the transformer architecture, and there were many competing theories and stuff about the neural net, and this one kind of takes the cake, right? I mean, basically after the transformer, everyone was using the transformer, right? All the other architectures, you kind of forget about them. And this is the protein folding as we realized, because you have a big molecule and you've got charges, and you put this thing and it can fold in different ways, right? And the function depends on the conformation of the molecule, and you need to be able to predict how it's going to fold. And that becomes a very critical problem to solve, right? And AlphaFold 1, 2, 3, now it's the best thing ever that we have currently. And then we have ChatGPT, 2 years ago. I asked ChatGPT, give me a picture of how you would like, how you look like. And this is a picture I got ChatGPT from ChatGPT. Right, so that's I think it's pretty cool, right? This is a picture of ChatGPT. So it does conversational AI, advanced, it can talk, it understands languages, it can translate, it can summarize. It's super knowledgeable, adaptive, very creative. And then one thing I changed my opinion on is that we say finally, this thing, you just need to predict the next word, right? I give you a sequence of words, and you predict the next word. So you just need to predict the next word. But when you think about this is a very, very difficult problem to solve, right? The fact that you can predict the next word, it means that you understand culture. You understand a lot of things about how we human beings talk, and what we call wisdom, or reflexes, or biases. They are encoded in that stuff, right? So for us to be able to predict the next word, I think like what Geoff Hinton says, and is very convincing, I agree with him, is that you need to be extremely intelligent to be able to predict the next word. Contrary, this is not the general opinion. General opinion is kind of stupid, what he does, only this thing, but I think it's very, very smart to be able to do that. Okay, we're good?
Okay.
Yes? So what the heck's happening in AI? So let's break it down in 3 parts, like what we did the little quiz that we had. One would be about content. The second one is about the robot, and the third one is about the cyborg, right? So what's going on right now is, let me call it the LLM war, right? So you hear about ChatGPT, you hear about Google, you hear about Meta and stuff. And this is happening right now. And if I were to pick dimensions along which the LLM war is being fought, I think I would say plugins, right? So at the beginning you have a ChatGPT, and it doesn't do math very well. They say, no, what's the problem? We're going to give you a plugin, right? A math plugin. So when you have a math problem, you package it and send it over, take the answer, put it back, and then answer back to you, right? So about plugins, and that's kind of, I don't see the war happening too much in the plugin now. The multimodal is what's happening right now, right? So not only text, but we are talking about the videos and so on. This is super hot, right? The multimodal dimension. And then the robot, we're talking about figure 1 with the Apple, right? So how you can power robots. And then there's another one that's happening as well, which is, let me call it smaller. So what you want to do is to have a small footprint, right? So you don't use those big machines, but a tiny one with not too much memory, but you can run it locally, right? So that's the new war that's happening. And just yesterday, Microsoft launched Phi Free. And I'll show you a slide on this, just yesterday, right? So those are the dimensions for the LLM war. And we know that's the hallucination. Everyone heard about the hallucination. What the hallucination is, truly, it is very, very probable because it's based on the probability. It turns out it's not true, but it could be true. And that's why it's so difficult for us to disentangle the hallucination from what are true facts, right? Because it's very, very probable. And then there was something called RAG, where you basically say, okay, I've got a bunch of documents here. Please use those documents before you hallucinate too much. I want you to go and scour those articles, those documents I gave you, right? And also go to the web, check what's happening, go to the web and then get the references, and if you can find the reference, and be very skeptical about if this stuff is true or not. And then other one that's happening, I think that would happen in ChatGPT 5, but that's coming up. It's about the something called train of thought. So when you ask a question, you may get the wrong answer, but when you ask, please break it down at step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, it behaves better, right? There are many classical examples that we know now because of the train of thought. And one thing that we do, I play with that as well, is that the ChatGPT wants to talk, right? So what we do, we let it talk, but the way it talks, we don't like it too much. And then we have a second pass where we say, based on what you tell me, kind of here how I want you to answer the question. It does much, much better than if you force it to answer the question the way you want the very first time. Right? It has to get it out of the system, so to speak. Like human beings, right? Get it out, and then it's kind of, oh, okay, it's very good, and so it does. There's another thing that's very big right now, it's called agentic paradigm. So the idea is you take the problem, and then you break it down in smaller problems, it's kind of very classical stuff, and then you assign different agents to solve sub-problems. And these agents talk with each other. And they found, for example, that for ChatGPT 3.5, if you add the agentic dimension, it beats 4.0. And if you put it in 4.0, it does way better, right? Which is very interesting, right? The agentic thing is going, I think we're going to hear a lot about this this year, 2024. So I just wanted to give you here an idea of the different players. So you see a long list of different LLMs here, and then some versions about them. So you can see OpenAI, there's Google, there's Microsoft, there's Mistral, Baidu, and right, there are tons of them. And what people do to follow the LLM war is we have a bunch of benchmarks, right? How good are you at answering high school problems, right? And how good are you at listening? So they have those test batteries of tests. And then each of those LLMs are being ranked, right? So this one was about Claude 3, which is a competitor, Anthropic. And I just got this thing, and it says, oh, look at how much better we do, right? So there's always a touting how I beat the other guys along those dimensions. And I put a note here saying that the ranking is dynamic given the progress that's happening. And indeed, yesterday, there's a new one that came out, and this is the Phi Free from Microsoft. Super tiny, right? It runs on 8 gigs of RAM, so comfortably on your iPhone. And the answers are very comparable with what you get from 3.5. So what's the magic there? Actually, it's the training of the data super curated. So you get a way smaller data set, but super curated. So then we can have a performance that's comparable with a big data set and a big LLM. And SM, right? Small language models, large language model. So that's another trend that's happening. Cool. So we're good with the kind of content, right? So I'm switching gear here. Yes, sir.
Question for you. Are these LLMs all being trained off just everything that's available free on the internet? Or are some of them able to go on JSTOR and like scholarly journals? And how does that work?
So there's that thing about YouTube, right? You probably heard about this. And you're doing Sora. How come you get those nice videos?
Right.
What's the number one place where you get videos, right? Has to be YouTube, right? And there was a very interesting interview about we use videos, yes. I mean, to your point, you have to go and grab this thing. I mean, how can you get this data set? And then you play the fool. I was mentioning that we lost all the data set that we don't know what happened, right? It just disappeared. And I think the other thing is that since these companies are deep pocket, if you were hesitating to sue, now's the time, right? You may get something. So I think there's incentive because of the success to claim your IP back to what Adrian was talking about. So the robots, this is doing a backflip. Yeah, it does a backflip. I only do the backflip when there's a foam pit, right? The backflip. So this is the new one, which is the completely electric version, right? So they retired, you heard about that, right? They retired the Atlas, and they have a new one, which is kind of very impressive. This one is, well, we moved to the University of Geneva. This is in the thing of like a nursing home where you have to care for people, and the robot's called Nadine, and Nadine, the social worker, a social robot. And the professor is Talman, and they've got, so he talks, he can sing, he can play bingo, right? And he can come to here at the Michigan Show Club and play bingo with us, right? It's meant to play a role in looking after the sick and stuff, and the professor says, the human being can work 8, 10, 12 hours, but this thing doesn't sleep, right? And we can keep on going, we need to charge the battery, and then it keeps on going, right? So, like to think about this, what's going to happen in the future, right? With this, with Nadine. And you probably heard of Henson Robotics, right? So Henson Robotics has, is the guy, David Henson, and then Sophia, I think like 10 years old now. I think everyone saw videos of Sophia talking and so on. And Sophia has a little sister now by the name of Grace, born like 3 years ago. And Grace is dedicated to be a nurse, right? But take care of people. And then when we talk about robots, I'm sure everyone here likes eating and drinking, right? There's a robot by a Russian guy. It's called Mole Robotics, and his robot is super expensive, but you can install it like 300 grand, something like this. So you can install it in your kitchen, and then it would follow the recipe of the big chef, and supposedly it would replicate exactly what the chef does, right? So that's one. The other one I was checking in Paris, there's a robot, and it's got 3 legs. The robot are like 3 pieces, 3 arms, and it moves around, it cooks pizza. And it's, so they interview the French people who are supposed to be difficult for food, and they say, oh, I cannot make the difference between this is called Pazzi, kind of play on pizza, right? It's called a Pazzi robot. And so I'd like to check out that pizza next time. I can tell you if the pizza is good or not, right? And in Boston, they have something called Spice. There were 4 kids from MIT that they talk with a chef, and then they have this food, American food. And I went there. I had to go there, right? Went there like 2-3 years ago. And I'll tell you one thing I know. I won't go back there. The food is really bad. So maybe the pizza's better, but I'll try the pizza and I'll let you know about the pizza. Or if you get the chance to go before me, let me know about I have the address here. 42 Rue Rambuteau in the 3rd arrondissement. And you tell me what you think. And then maybe a kind of robot that you won't call a robot. It kind of it's like custard, and what it does, it can go through different places that are difficult to access. It can change shape, right? It's very malleable, so it can go into stuff, and it's sprinkled with magnetic stuff in there, right? And the idea, this is from Hong Kong University, and the idea here, it can swallow things like maybe put it in your digestive system. Maybe you ate something you shouldn't have eaten, it would go and swallow it and get out, right? Kind of interesting. So the reason I put this thing is we always think of humanoid robot, right? Or maybe the industrial robot, but this one's kind of a different kind of robot, right? That we may not think of right away. At least to me, I don't think of this as a robot, but I think it kind of opens up our perspective of what a robot could be. We're good there. Any comment? Any cool robots you've seen that you want to share with us? Yeah? The cool robots? There are lots of them that I didn't talk about. There are lots of cool robots out there. There's the robot that plays football. Did you see that? That plays soccer. Little short robot that plays soccer. And you don't teach the rules, and this thing goes, yeah. It's pretty cool. Yes?
So my question is, are these things functional? Are they
Yeah.
using them? Where are they using them?
Yeah. They are functional. This is some, for example, this one, this is still in the lab, right? When we say university of, when you put university, you know, it's kind of, we're playing with the idea, like the robot that does stuff. But the other ones are actually functioning. I think this one they used it in Singapore to entertain people in the nursing home, right? I think it's coming shortly in Wilmette.
But that, if you're using it for entertainment, and it's supposed to be a nurse,
Yeah.
is it actually nursing? I mean, is it taking over the function of a nurse?
I think that's the idea, to maybe all the functions we don't know. But as you know, there's a huge shortage, right, of nurses in the nursing home. We just don't have enough of them. And even if it can do only the menial things or the straightforward things, I think that would be lots of help, right? Maybe it doesn't do everything we want to do today. And back to the question, OAB, if you think that that's going to happen this, I would think so. I'll do an A, right? I think it's happening this, maybe a year or 2, 3 years max, I think it's happening. This me talking. Right?
So, JT, just one
Yeah.
comment. My understanding from the question earlier was that a general purpose robot like this is not it's still not there. It's really manufacturing, I need to do one specific task.
Yeah.
Got to take this car part and
Yeah,
move it like that.
yeah.
So I'm
That the
replacing-
industrial robot.
Replacing the human,
Yeah.
which is, or it's a human assisted, right? But then I'm not getting all the backaches and
Yeah.
muscle
Yeah.
problems and all that.
Yeah.
But like the kind of more generalized like nurse that's gonna go and take care, I'm not sure if that's there. I mean, I don't know. I don't see that, right?
I think there are 2 parts to it. One is, which is the talking, kind of how you're doing, right? That the kind of stuff, like the voice, and then the other one is maybe what you're talking about, lifting someone and put on these stuff and get these sheets. But I think that's happening. When you look at Figure 1 and that demo, check out this demo, AJ, if you haven't seen it before. The handing of the apple. I mean, I looked at this, I just didn't believe it's true. I mean, it's really, really, really impressive. Okay. So the cyborg stuff. So this one is called Envision. So it's glasses, and the glasses can see, right? So say you're blind or almost blind, and you say, what do I see here? And they tell you the people and stuff. And then you want to read, you go to the grocery, you look at something, say a can, and then you read what's there. And you say, I don't read English. And you tap it, talk to you Spanish or French or whatever language that you want. And this is really, really cool. And I thought I had heard something about Meta with Ray-Ban, so I checked it out and nothing to do. I mean, this Ray-Ban stuff you buy it for $250, Wayfarer it's called, but it has nothing to do with Envision. Envision is really the stuff I'm talking about. Other one is the visual prosthesis. So basically now we capture the image, and then what you see is a matrix, and you see dots, right? So when people walk and so on, you see dots light up. So it's not the shape of the human being, but that very, very coarse, right? And the point is that with 100 electrodes, you can see simple shapes But then if you add more and more, you can have the full picture. That's the promise, that you can actually see what's going on, right? This is really cool, right? I mean, if you're blind, you can get to see some kind of matrix dots, better than nothing. This is the bionic leg, right? University of Utah, and this guy's a high school football coach, and the story is very sad how he lost his leg. He was going on the highway to help a friend that got into an accident, and when he went out, he got hit at 90 miles an hour, and he said, I should have died, but he didn't die, and then he's got lots of complications. And so this robot, one of the things that when you have a prosthesis, it's heavy, and you have to lift, so you lift it on the side to go over. So this one, because it's lighter, and then it determines the center of gravity, you can lift directly like this, right? And that's a huge, huge improvement. So that's kind of cool. Okay, we're good on the cyborg? Yeah? Any comments or stuff on the cyborg? Yeah, you're good with the cyborg? Okay, I'll take a few minutes to tell you about, there's not only LLM, right? There's LLM, but there's a few techniques that people are following that I think are worth mentioning, right? So we'll start with the LLM, right? So that's the neural network. We talk about this at ChatGPT. I think you're getting familiar with that. It requires, what I'm saying here, knowledge and wisdom to predict a very good next word. So it's basically what we cover, like traits of thought and agentic behavior and so on. So here I want to ask you a question. So you can converse like a human being, you can translate, summarize text. You can write student essays applying to college, right? You can get ChatGPT, you know, your school, the best school, and I have always, since I was a kid, dreamed of getting your school. Kind of stuff, compose music, teleplays. And the teleplays would go, and some of the scripts are very interesting. So you have the story that it would start camera, go there, stop, you know, shut, open, zoom out, and just crazy on those teleplays. Poetry, sound lyrics, brainstorm, simulate chat rooms, play games like tic-tac-toe, ATM is a kind of, I want to deposit some money, take some money, and you can talk, and you think you're at an ATM. So question for you, what task would be most helpful for you using this kind of stuff? I need your voice. So what task? Yeah, sure. Okay.
Customer service reps.
No?
The customer service reps.
Okay. That's happening.
Yeah.
That's happening.
I feel like I personally use like brainstorming, whether it's for an essay or for kind of a strategy.
Yeah.
Kind of bringing out your perspective
Yeah.
to a bigger picture.
Yeah. I like to ask, what question did I miss?
Yeah.
Yeah. What should I be thinking that I wouldn't mention at all? Right. So it kind of opens up your the sandbox.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Of these options, I have to say number 2 is the one that I just feel like there is not enough time to read everything I want to read and process all the information that's out there, and I'd love a smart AI tool that can truly summarize news and differentiate between fake news and real news and help me.
So you tried it. Do you like the summaries you get from ChatGPT?
I like asking Google and Alexa,
Mhm.
and I mean, I do that all the time now, and I think that's, the demand is there for quick answers
Yeah.
and.
But try
quick
ChatGPT
summaries.
before.
Yes, I have
Try
tried
it.
ChatGPT, it's very
Yeah.
good, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And you can talk about different subjects. You can go philosophy, you can talk history,
Right.
you can talk science. I mean, it's not always very deep, but it's kind of a very, very knowledgeable person. You'll never meet someone like this, right? It's kind of, wow. And any comments you want to share? Okay. Thank you. So the first one is called the GAN, Generative Adversarial Network. And this is not, this has been like 10 years old. but the reason I want to talk a little bit about this is like the state of the art. So when we develop a new technique, is how do we compare with GAN? It's like our yardstick. And the architecture is very interesting. Is that the story goes that the Stanford guy, and he was having some beer. Maybe he didn't have too much beer with his friends, and he was talking about the GAN. And then his friends said, "You're stupid. It's not going to work. This thing." He said, "No. I think like midnight, he goes back in his room and wrote this GAN like 2 in the morning, and sent it to his buddies, right? And that became, according to some big shot, coolest idea in deep learning in the last 20 years, right? And so the way it works is you have 2 systems, right? 2 neural networks. One generates, so it makes up stuff. And the other one, it looks at the stuff and say good or bad, right? So if you think of, say, like pictures, on it's called the discriminator and the generator, right? The discriminator has a database of real, say, pictures of people. And then the generator will generate a picture, and it will compare and say, no, that looks fake, your stuff. This is a cartoon, not a real picture, out. And then the generator gets the feedback and changes the strategy a little bit and offers a different picture. So you have the back and forth. So the generator becomes smarter through the response of the critic, and the critic gets smarter as well. When it's really cannot tell apart if it's true or false, then you forget about the critic, and then you keep the generator, it keeps on generating. Right? So this is how you can draw from the distribution, picture distribution. You can draw very, very realistic pictures of people that don't exist. Right? And you've seen a lot of those deep fakes, right? So that's the GAN, right? Kind of the reference. I think it's a cool one. This one, it's a super cool. It's called the diffusion model. So what the diffusion model does, and you take a picture that's super crisp, and then you put some noise in the picture, right? And then the whole idea is to go back to the original picture, so you denoise the picture. And you denoise it using a neural network. And when it denoises it, so you don't do it like completely noise and then crisp picture, but you go in different steps, like maybe 100 steps, right? So it learns how to remove the noise step at a time. And what happens, it doesn't land on the original picture, but it lands on a different picture that is very realistic. So this is how this diffusion model works. And it's very counterintuitive that the way to generate them is to throw noise and then remove noise, right? It's kind of not the first idea that crosses your mind, right? Maybe you think about it, maybe you get this idea, but it's not obvious. And it works super well. Here is Michigan Shows Club using the diffusion model and a reinterpretation of our building here. I don't know if you think it looks like a Michigan Shows Club, but this is what ChatGPT, yeah. Okay. Other technique called NeRF, neural radiance field. So this one is, what it does is you basically take pictures. Looking at it here, I take a picture, I take a picture, I take a picture, right? You have 2D pictures, and then it creates a 3D model based on the pictures that you took. And then now you can ask a question. So each time you take a picture, depending on my height and where I'm located, it's XYZ coordinate. And then I have 2 angles for the line of gaze, right? Angle like this and the angle like this, right? So I give 5 parameters and I take a picture, right? Move picture. And now, once you've got those pictures, the 5 parameters and the pictures that correspond to them, now you go to a different place. I go here. And I say, what am I going to see? And I see what I see right now, right? And a couple of interesting facts is that the size of the neural net that captures the 3D model of those 2D pictures is actually of the same size as the 2D model, which is very counterintuitive. You'd expect this thing to be a mammoth neural net, but it is actually a little smaller. The second interesting is it's very slow. It takes like 1-2 days to cook this thing. And I think last week there's a paper that came out saying that they found a way to make it really fast. I haven't read the paper, but I read the title of the paper. So kind of, oh wow. So that's the NeRF. And then there's something called the liquid neural net. So what the liquid neural net does is that normally when you have a neural net, you train it, and you have a neuron, and then you have another neuron, and then you have the synapses, right? And what it does, it basically takes the sum of the weighted input and to decide what output to send out. Once you train the neural net, this is fixed. You don't change it, right? This is frozen. In this thing, it changes, right? So hence the word liquid. So the weights within the neural network changes depending on the input. And the inspiration, this is a work from MIT, and inspiration comes from that little worm here, the C. elegans. C. elegans is about 1 millimeter long, super tiny, right? And we have about 85 billion neurons. What's here? It's got 302 neurons. And still, it can exhibit very interesting, difficult, complex behavior. So the inspiration is that the C. elegans can do all that stuff with 302 neurons. Can we do something interesting, right? And so there's a system that does self-driving car, and the demo is very impressive, with only 19 neurons, 19. 253 connections. And extremely impressive, and you can understand the rationale. If you're driving somewhere in the US, you don't have connection, so it runs locally, right? So the direction for your driving, it doesn't have to talk with the cloud. It is right there in your car. So this is I think this is super cool, the LNN. I think you'll hear more about this thing. Okay, how much time do I have? 8 to 5? Oh, I'm already, okay. Implication, so the good thing, I'll go a little faster there. Can I take a little more time? Or,
Yes.
Okay. So the good thing about all that stuff we're talking about, the AI, is truly help accomplish a wide range of tasks. It's very relevant, high quality, instantaneous answers, really, really fast. Okay, we do have the occasional hallucinations, right? But that's okay. And then you can explore virtually any subject with little hassle. I mean, you just can go there and ask a question. I think those are the very good things that we have. If you look at the bad things, I think gentleman mentioned the losses of jobs, right? Countless job losses are coming, resulting in a lot of pain, right? And that's real. Widening divide between the guys in the know and the rest of the people. I think if anything, it would separate us even more. Elimination of small jobs that are essential for a lot of career paths, and I'll give you an example. And then maybe we don't want to talk about that, or maybe we want to talk about that, is the soldier robot, right? So that's coming, right? RoboCop. So 2 comments on the job. So if you take an instantaneous picture of a job is made up of several tasks. And when we want, say, the radiologist we were talking about, and reading mammograms is just one task of it, right? So most jobs that we're looking at comprise different tasks. And when you automate one, actually you reshuffle the balance between the different tasks. So there won't be a direct impact as to losing that job, unless the job is only about one task. Say Uber, right? You drive a car, and this one drives the car. Now you're going to be replaced, and there should be some other people that's going to go see that. So that's kind of the cross-sectional view of the task. So I don't see a lot of things, but it would be a shift. So if you're a writer, maybe now instead of spending lots of time about writing, you're going to spend more time about what is the intent of the communication, the style of the writing, and you're going to have higher level consideration than just producing the text, because now you have lots of time, right? Because things written, now you can criticize. So I think that this can improve the quality of what's accessible. If you look at the longitudinal view and say we have a movie star wannabe, and you wonder now with the avatar if it's a good idea to be a movie star, or if you can be a movie star, you've got let me call them the stepping stones, right? So maybe you want to be an actress in Hollywood. In the meantime, you're going to be a waitress in a restaurant, cashier in a store, maybe you have some singing gigs, or you do babysitting or something like this. And if all those jobs are taken by AI, I mean, we're kind of eviscerating the very fabric of our society. And those people, we make it very, very hard for those people to climb the ladder over time to reach their goal. I think that's maybe more profound than the other one we were talking about. And then kind of maybe you'll go sober to see that any job where the scarcity of data, maybe back to your point, is going to be kind of safe, right? For you to have an AI, you have to have lots of data and good quality data. And there are jobs where, passing some judgments may be very difficult because it's very tiny and it's based on lots of reasoning, not a lot of data. So those jobs may be kind of more difficult with dilemmas to solve in those problems. It's more difficult to automate. The ugly, I think it's pretty obvious with the elections coming up in November. So deepfake, misinformation, disinformation, I think we all heard our share of all that stuff. And then you also heard about biases, about stereotypes. And if you take the data is not perfect. And you train the data with its biases. So guess what? Of course you have biases in what is output, garbage in, garbage out, right? You will have the biases because the biases were in the data to start with. So you shouldn't be surprised. There's another piece, I don't know if you're familiar with, but you have an exploitation of people to do the grunt work, to do the labeling, right? This is a dog, this is a cat, or read stories, sentiment analysis, this is awful, and so on. And I read a story in China where it's supposed to be an AI kind of college, but actually they hire those guys to do the grunt work. And it has nothing to do with AI, it has to do with labeling, right? And this is kind of sad because we don't see that part. Kind of, you're happy, oh, ChatGPT, but you don't know how much of this is happening behind the scenes. AJ brought up the violation of IP, and then I think maybe another thing you can think about is the human-human interaction. And when I talk with a chatbot, I'm always the boss, right? I decide what question to ask. And the stuff we say, hey JP, what are you talking about? This question's stupid, what are you talking about? Right, so you don't get that kind of feedback. And if we interact a lot with the bots, then maybe talking with someone, and they just GP, what are you thinking? Kind of,
Unpleasant.
don't like this kind of conversation, right? Because you're familiar where kind of you're always in charge when you talk with the bot, but with human beings, you're not always in charge, right? Depending on the conversation. So I think that may be a kind of interesting effect that may happen. So I'll go quickly here. I want to show you my thesis. So things that we can do, finance, maybe invest in AI, buy some stocks or ETFs or QQQ or whatever stuff, or even think of setting up a company to sell AI. Maybe you're already thinking about that. Personal growth, play with ChatGPT. You can learn a different language and develop your skill, acquire more knowledge. Career, kind of, we're talking about the radiologist. Is it still a good idea to be a radiologist today? Or to be a paralegal? It's a good career choice today, knowing that ChatGPT is coming after you. Right? So you may think twice about those career choices. And then for the deepfake, one thing that we have to have now is check. Because there's so much crap out there, right? You have, it looks reasonable, but you don't really know, right? Okay. Oh, here's an experiment I ran. So about, how you can use this thing. So this is a bird. Who knows what bird this is? It's a bird in Illinois. So let's ask ChatGPT, right? There you go. Not only you get the name of the stuff, you get the distinctive features, the habitat and the behavior, the breeding season, and all that stuff. And you go and check in Google, it's correct. This thing is correct, right? That's kind of very impressive. So you want to learn about birds, you can use ChatGPT, right? So if we're talking about birds, maybe we should look at flowers. Okay, let's look at flowers. Oh, here are flowers, right? What flowers do you see? Right? What flowers you see? And ask ChatGPT, here's the answer. And I check them. They're all correct. Yeah? So you're gardening, you go and you find a flower, you take a picture, and you get the stuff here. Okay. I was in Boston last week, and we were visiting the Museum of Fine Arts, and I took a picture. So your task is to tell me which one is from the Museum of Fine Arts and which one is a fake from ChatGPT. Look at them very carefully, right? See if you're discerning here, because you'll get a lot of that before November 2024. Who says the fake is on the left? Fake on the left. We have less than half the people here. Fake on the right. Oh, the majority. How did you know?
It's too good.
Huh?
It looks too perfect.
Yeah, you're right. Very good, very good. You guys are good.
Humans win.
You're good.
More or less ensures that.
Well, it's unless you know the kind of the work, well, the description here, it's kind of hard. It's a hard question. Don't you agree? It's a hard question. Okay. So thesis and reflection. So I know that I close here in 2 minutes. Here's my thesis. Is that I want you to consider a nursing home, right? And you've got this gentleman here on the left and says, you know, I am tired of living. I think it's time for me to go, right? And the robot answers on the right one. You say, oh, you're right. You know, all your friends are gone, and it's not like you're getting younger every day, you know. or the robot can say something. What are you talking about? Are you crazy? You know, Haruko is the Japanese guy, right? Haruko and the whole gang is coming to see you this weekend, and we're going to play and have party, and what are you talking about, right? So two very different responses to the same prompt, right? The same situation. Now, when you think about this, we're going to use ChatGPT more and more, right? So ChatGPT is going to be the vector of our culture. Because we're going to ask questions, we're going to get reflexes, maybe you have a new boyfriend, girlfriend, children, career, you're going to ask ChatGPT, right? So this thing is going to be the vector of our culture. And if it is a vector of our culture, we need to be careful that it doesn't do bad things, like hopefully we don't like the red one, right? Maybe most people agree on that. That it would go more on the green than on the red, right? So we want something that would rate it on a nice, nasty scale, right? So I decided to call it a jerkometer, right? So you have a jerkometer, so it has different dimensions. So one is very inclusive, the other one, no, when you're free, you can do that kind of stuff. One is punitive, the other one is accepting, right? Different dimensions of how we evaluate the situation. So what this jerkometer would do, it's a bit like your carbon monoxide detector. It would beep when, you know, things that are coming out spewed out from the ChatGPT robot is kind of unacceptable, right? And I think one, it could be some bad actor. Imagine that you have ChatGPT running all the nursing homes in the US now. Okay, maybe some of them are not ChatGPT, some of the Google version or something, right? But it's very uniform. Some bad actor takes over, right? Maybe there are too many people living in the US now. We should kind of get rid of because the Medicare bill is too high. You know, have to eliminate a few people there, right? To get the robot kind of answer the red and not the green, right? So the jerkometer, what it would do, it would measure the quality of the conversation. And then it would report. And you say, no, this is not good, but you're good. Either the bad actor or maybe over time through interaction, there will be a drift in the language, right? And we need to make sure that this doesn't happen. So that's basically, if you want to talk, that's my thesis of how we can monitor this thing, right? And maybe that should put that in the law, right? We're writing lots of AI law that we're doing here, and you should have something like this. And let me share with you before we close a few ideas, in addition to this one. One thing that I hear is the LLM does not know what's true or false. It only knows what we tell it, right? This thing is blue, this thing is black, this thing is red. I mean, there's no way for it to know the truth. It doesn't have the ground truth. It takes only what we tell it, right? But now, with ChatGPT 4.0, it can see for itself, right? So I think this thing has changed now. 4.0 is able to watch and then get the, I have a little stuff that I invented here. See, when you drop a rock, it turns into a frog. Say you type that in ChatGPT, right? But now ChatGPT has seen, you've got two eyes, right? The 200 million people that have an account on ChatGPT. And how many eyes is that, right? So the accumulation of what's going on in the physical world is going to be way, way more than what you've lived. You have it a million times. This thing would have some more things that we've seen, right? So this thing would have direct observation of reality. And in that sense, it would have something, you say, no, that's not true. The frog, when it drops into the rock, doesn't become a frog. It stays a rock, right? So I think that changing what we used to say about no ground truth in the system, because now we can observe. So think about this, and then if you don't like it, we can talk, but even if you like it, we can talk. Second, can it be creative? The profound question, right? Can this thing be creative? So one of the things that you realize is that when you get an insight, it comes in as a feeling. And then you articulate your feeling in words. And the reason I say that is oftentimes you have trouble finding the words that match the feelings that you feel, right? So there's the verbalization of the feeling that comes after the insight. If all that business is based only on words, it means that we're leaving out the thing that happens before the ideas. So if you're missing that crucial part, how can you claim that you're really creative, right? How can you get epiphany? Kind of, oh, right? It's not coming in words. You have it first, and then it gets translated in words. So this is another kind of maybe more technical way you can look at things, is that creativity, you train the system on a data set, and it produces something. And what if the really creative, cool idea is outside of what it can generate because it hasn't had the right data set to be able to produce it? So it means what is reachable with a data set, your idea may be not reachable. In that sense, it cannot be creative, right? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Can it create new knowledge? For that same reason, I don't think too much. But I think one thing it can do for us, it can find areas where there's contradiction, or two theories that fly in the face of each other, that two of them cannot be true at the same time. There's conflict, right? And in that case, I think a system like ChatGPT can identify those kind of problem claims, and then even design an experiment to settle the question, right? To say, run, and here's how we can run an experiment, and okay, you are right, you are wrong, kind of stuff. Right, so in that sense, even though it doesn't generate new knowledge, it can accelerate the development of new knowledge. Consciousness, and we always get that question, is this thing going to be conscious? And when it's conscious, it's going to be doomsday, right? Takes over, it kills everyone, right? And this is what's going on according to the movies, right? Consciousness means to have thoughts of your own. And then I think what's interesting is to be able to reflect on your reflection, right? So you have this meta level of going above yourself and look at yourself, and this is what we call conscious. Conscious is a little larger than sentient, right? Sentient, you get the feelings, and conscious is you're kind of above and understanding what's going on. This is me talking. I think AI would definitely be able to exhibit all the behaviors of someone that's conscious. And you look at me, who says I am conscious? I mean, you only get the external stuff if he's talking, but you don't know if I'm really conscious, right? And all the stuff that you cannot establish if I'm conscious or not. It's a safe assumption, I guess, but you don't have any hard proof for that, right? So I think the fact that the next part is going to be doomsday, I think it's most improbable. I think what we should be wary about is other people, the bad actors. I think those are the problem, not so much the consciousness of the AI. It's other people, bad actors, taking over the AI to do bad things. I think that's much, much more probable than this thing by itself deciding to wreak havoc. By the way, there's this guy, Blake, you heard of Steve Blake, Blake Lemon, the Google guy that got fired, because he was convinced that this thing is conscious, right? Anyways, okay, time for the core. Okay, so you remember what was your free address? Yes? Okay, anyone that changed their mind after this conversation, or Okay, so what was before, what was after, and what caused the change?
Mine was AAB, and now it's AAA.
On the cyborg stuff.
Yeah,
Okay,
right?
okay,
Am
okay.
I right?
Yeah. Good. You get the triple A, right?
Yeah, that's what I was looking.
So you're the only person,
I kind of forget.
the only person to change over? All of us, we're same spot? No? Oh, yes?
I have the same changeover from AAB to AAA.
Okay. So now you're triple A. I think thank you for staying a little longer than the allotted time. And if you want to talk, obviously, I'm super happy to talk with you. Thank you.